Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to our Sunday evening broadcast. Clive Leach here, and welcome. You're going to have a great time with this. We have a phenomenal guest on tonight. Here, you know, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon where I am, in Florida, 7 o'clock with you. In Las Vegas, where our eminent speaker is joining us, it's merely 11 o'clock in the morning, and I've just had the privilege of watching him eat breakfast, which is something pretty rare. Our guest today is none other than Richard Bliss Brooke. Richard Brooke is an ambassador to this industry. He's been around as many years as I have. Now that's a few, but he's done an awful lot of fantastic work for the industry. He's written a couple of great books. His super MLM videos have gone viral. They're incredibly funny. If you've not seen them, you really got to look them up. So without more than ado, we're going to introduce the one and only Richard Bliss Brooke. Hello, Richard.
Wow, how do you do that, Clive? That's amazing.
Well, it's all to do with modern technology, Richard. But what I'd like you to do first, Richard, if you would, is, you know, the guys in the UK, I know you really well. You know, we met in Vegas and all the rest of the jazz. But the guys in the UK don't really know an awful lot about you and what you've done. So could you give them your story in brief, if you would, please? Sure.
I'm turning 60 in about 2 weeks, and I got started at the age of 22. So I think I'm going on 38 years full-time in the profession, or 39. I used to work at a chicken factory for $3 an hour, and I got recruited into a network marketing company. The first couple of years were pretty rough because I didn't like to invite people to look at the opportunity, and I didn't like to connect with people that I didn't know, and I didn't have a lot of confidence or self-esteem. But I studied real hard. I listened to all the audios, read all the books. You know, if somebody said, hey, here's an audio to listen to, I'd listen to it 100 times. I would listen to it everywhere I drove the car, everywhere I walked, listen to it at night. I'd have the headset on and sleep at night listening to these audios. And I finally started to develop some of the skills and confidence that might allow somebody to be successful in this business. And then I encountered one of the brilliant aspects of network marketing, and that is that you can actually sponsor somebody who is far more capable than you are. And I had the good fortune of sponsoring a guy named Jerry Schaub, who at the time that I sponsored him, I was living in a studio apartment. I didn't have any money at all. I was making about $300 a month in the business. I was driving a borrowed car. And in the next 12 months after sponsoring Jerry Schaub, he made me $100,000.
Wow.
That was in 1979. So that's probably the equivalent of, in US dollars, maybe $300,000 or $400,000 today.
Huge figure, that, Richard.
Yeah, just from one person. So I took that and used that confidence and that income, and I went on to sponsor 3 more people almost as potent as Jerry Schaub. And by the time I was 28 years old, so 6 years total after I started, but 4 years after I really went to work, I had 30,000 people in my group, and I was earning $40,000 a month, which in 1983 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I went on to run that company for 3 years as the executive vice president, and then I ended up owning a network marketing company for 30 years. And 5 years ago, I started another network marketing company. In the mid-90s, I wrote a book called Mach 2, The Art of Personal Vision and Self-Motivation. About 5 years ago, I wrote a book called The 4-Year Career. I've been on the board of directors of the Direct Selling Association, and I'm currently on the ethics committee of the Direct Selling Association. And that's my story in 3 minutes.
Well, that's a pretty amazing resume there, Richard. You know, you've done well. One of the things that I'd like to address with you, in fact, I had a question through when we were promoting your talk today from a lady called Shirley Chapman. She came via our Vimeo platform. And I suspect that Shirley is probably quite a new distributor, because she said, is it possible to do too much too soon, as in trying to approach too many customers in the first few months, or is slow and steady the better option? What's your opinion, Richard?
Well, I think, you know, that's philosophical, and I think you can win going either way. Personally, my own philosophy is slow and steady. So the business plan that I teach people that ask me to teach them a plan is one person a day. And one person a day doesn't sound like a lot of people, and it doesn't, I mean, one person a day that you connect with, that you have some kind of a conversation with, which leads to you inviting them to take a look at your opportunity. And, you know, if you talk to somebody that teaches the philosophy of sprinting in the business, or, you know, launching and throwing everything you have at the opportunity and talking to, you know, 20 people a day, that certainly works. And what I've found over the long haul, just personally, and I'm not saying that approach doesn't work or is wrong, I've just found that it serves people better to take a more methodical and steady approach, the tortoise, perhaps, if you will, versus the hare, and get their skill set developed and get comfortable with what they're doing. And, you know, if you look at it this way, one person a day doesn't sound like very many people. But if you invite one person a day for 90 days, that's 90 people you have in your pipeline. Now, Clive, you and I know that's about 85 more people than 95% of the people have in their pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, 90 people in your pipeline, that's a fortune. That's a gold mine. I mean, you could build an empire with that. Just follow up with those people, and you know, somewhere in there, you're going to end up sponsoring 10 or 15 great distributors if you nurture those 90 people. And of course, if you do it for a year, that's 365 people in your pipeline. All of them you've invited to take a look at your business. Now, you know, if you go to some of the racehorses and the superstars in this business and you say, well, my plan is to talk to one person a day, they might laugh at you and say, well, you're never going to never going to get your plane off the ground at one person a day. Well, you might get it off the ground a little slower, but there's some upside to the methodical approach from my perspective, and that is you don't tend to alienate people because you're in such a hurry that you're moving through people and trying to recruit as many people as you can, as fast as you can. That lends itself to abusing relationships by just being in too much of a hurry.
And this is this is a relationship business, isn't it? That's what we're about.
Yeah. So I land on the philosophical side of slow and steady, and the business plan that I teach is one a day, and that's an invite. So an invite is I have to ask you to take a look at my opportunity in order for it to qualify as an invite. Now, I may do that over Facebook, but it doesn't qualify if I just, you know, send out 20 emails and here's a link to my opportunity. You have to actually agree to look at it. And so one a day, I think, is it's not a blistering pace, but it will win the race.
Okay, great phrase. Not a blistering pace, but it'll win the race. But what you're talking about, one a day, okay, and you're saying that's the slow and steady pace. I've seen some people say, oh, it's slow and steady, one a month.
That's a death march, Clive.
Or even one a fortnight, you know.
Yeah.
I think one a day is great. I mean, in my career, you know, when we got going in this, in our first 30 days, we did talk to a bunch of people, and we did recruit 20 people in our first 30 days. And that pipeline pretty well got us going real fast, and that's what happened to us. But Richard, let me ask you, in your early days, you know, when you were really going, you got your skill set, how many people did you recruit in a month on average? Would you know?
Yeah, not very many, Clive. I was not a prolific recruiter, so I might have recruited one or two a month, which is by standards that you or I would teach is pretty slow. I like to have people on a pace of 3 to 4 people a month that they're personally enrolling until they find somebody that's ready to go to work, and then you drive that leg deep.
Yeah.
I had kind of a knack of driving almost any leg deep if somebody would work. Now, I couldn't drive somebody if they wouldn't work, but I just found more leaders out of fewer people, and probably because I hated to prospect.
Yeah. Okay. So when you talk about, it's really interesting what you're saying about, you know, driving a leg deep, because Di and I, you know, when we were really in building our business, you know, our business is 18 years old now, so it's, you know, some business. We always had this saying that we would drive people. We know we would either drive people into a check, or we would drive them out of the business, or we would drive them insane. You know, we didn't really care what we did. We just drove people. And when we said, you know, when we found somebody like you, you know, willing to do some work, okay, we helped them drive their contact list, and we helped them sponsor from their contact list.
Right.
Went down and down and down. Is that what you're saying, Richard?
Yes, completely. I mean, I am philosophically, not that I've never done it, I've certainly done it, but philosophically, I don't give people away. So if you're a great potential distributor, I'm not going to build anything for you. I'm not going to give you my contacts. Now, not that I haven't done that. I have done it, and I can't even remember in 40 years when it ever worked, but I'll probably do it again. But when I say drive deep, it's all with your contacts, and basically it's a partnership. And what you bring to the partnership as the new distributor is you bring the contacts and you bring the credibility to get those contacts to show up. And what I bring is the skill set in the business and the presentation. And what we want to do is, you know, launch your business with that partnership. And, you know, so that might take us down 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 levels below you, where I'm actually working with those people and showing you how to work with those people, and helping you with presentations, and helping you with trainings, and helping you with coaching, until you can stand on your own 2 feet as a leader. And, you know, part of driving deep is you gotta have a sense of when to let people go, and that's usually before you and before they think they're ready.
Okay.
You know, one of the mistakes is we tend to hang on to people too long and help them for too long, and that doesn't develop leadership. What develops leadership is for me to say, all right, Clive, I got you down 5 levels. I got your check to, you know, this amount. You're at this position in the comp plan. Now here's when we're going to work together from this point on, and 90% of it is you.
Okay, I get that. In fact, that's exactly the sort of thing that Di and I did. One of the things that has happened in our business is we do see people placing their contacts in areas within their business, you know, to create a structure as part of our comp plan.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, but more often it's a bit difficult, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, you talked about skill sets a moment ago. So, you know, you're sitting down with a new distributor, you've got somebody just coming into the business, they've been on the corporate training. Our corporate training is brilliant. It's a national training program. It's paid for by the company, utterly outstanding. And it's very much customer focused, which is only the right thing to do for, you know, somebody who's brand new.
Yep.
And there is some recruitment training as well. But I've just picked up something that, you know, you said really that you teach people how to present. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, we have tools for presenting, and I think most companies have tools for presenting.
Yeah, we do.
But what I want to see you learn as a new distributor is I want you to learn how I use those tools, how I package those tools. And in the absence of a tool, how do I break out a yellow pad and show somebody the opportunity?
Okay, now I've got to stop you there, Richard, because you just use a term yellow pad, okay, which in the UK is, okay, guys, it's a notepad, okay, fine, okay, thank you, Richard.
It's yellow, Clive. See, look, it's yellow.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Also white. Okay, so carry on, Richard, I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
Well, that's the presentation. Teaching somebody to present, I think, is a core skill. And we, of course, teach people to use tools, and we have great tools. Most companies do. But I think, also just for your own confidence, you need to be able to sit down and show somebody what are the high points of this opportunity. Why is this opportunity something that could be a fit for the prospect? And how's the whole money thing flow? I want you to be able to learn how to do that without tools necessarily. It raises your confidence level. And then when you have a tool, you're much more confident and much more competent to use the tool, because what you're going to do is position the tool and package the tool and create context for the tool.
Okay, well, we have a great video done by corporate, which has a well-known celebrity in the United Kingdom. In fact, he's a knight. It's a chap called Sir Terence Wogan.
Wow.
Yeah, who presents our services to the consumer. Does it very well. And we also have a very good, nice, short little cartoon that shows the basics of how the money flows within the business. But I know many leaders within our business also encourage people to be able to draw it out and show leverage. Would you agree that showing leverage is a good thing to do?
I think the core, whether it's 4 who get 4 or 5 who get 5, being able to show people that, it's one of the core presentations that makes up the concept of the 4-year career, is how compounding and geometric progressions is the engine that creates wealth in network marketing. It's the idea of how do you get 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people contributing to your income when maybe you only initiate the opportunity with 10 or 15. It's that process is foreign to people. People don't understand compounding. If they understood compounding, they'd have a different relationship with debt. Instead of being in debt, they would own debt. But most people are in debt because they're blind to the concept of compounding. And so when you show somebody network marketing, you have to, I believe, assume that they don't know anything about compounding or geometric progressions. It's a mathematical equation that's just foreign to them. And I found great value in almost going down to a grade school level and showing people step by step, showing it to them 3 or 4 times. This is how this works. And there's some fundamentals that make it work, like the rule that anyone can sponsor, anyone can enroll new distributors. That's the rule that creates compounding in network marketing. 60 years ago, you had to be appointed by the company in order to recruit. And then 60 years ago, somebody said, hey, anyone can recruit. Now all of a sudden we have compounding, which creates the wealth building. You got to be able to show people that.
Music to my ears, Richard. Absolutely, because it's something which Di and I believe passionately. The other thing which we believe helps a distributor advance their careers is by paying attention to upcoming events.
Huge.
How huge?
Well, I don't know, and I'm sure you don't either, know anyone that has been successful in network marketing that has not made the main events, the corporate events, the incentive trips, the conventions, the regional events, the local meetings. It's just part of the culture that makes this work. I don't know anybody who's ever built a big organization that has survived 10, 15, 20 years that has not made attending at events a mandatory part of the culture. And when I say part of the culture, what I mean is it's like this. When there is an event, you go. That's the equation that has people be successful in network marketing. The equation that has people fail sounds like this. When there is an event, we'll look at when it is, how much it is, who's speaking, how many people are going to be there, how far away it is from us, how it fits into the rest of our calendar, and we'll decide whether or not it's convenient. That's a recipe for failure. The only recipe that works is if there is an event I'm going. Now, why is that? Because ours is a business of relationships, and relationships don't happen over the internet. They don't happen over Facebook. They don't happen over email. They don't happen over Google Hangout. They don't happen over text. They happen body to body, face to face, heart to heart, spirit to spirit. Here's an analogy. This is a great analogy for people that love to prospect on the internet. So imagine that you're looking to romance a partner on the internet. So walk through this matrix. On a scale of 1 to 10, how effective do you think it would be to develop a romance, and the only form of communication is email or text or Facebook, on a scale of 1 to 10? Compare that to getting on the phone with somebody where you can actually hear their voice and they can hear your voice. I mean, the difference between digital, electronic, and actually hearing somebody's voice has to be like 3 or 4 or 5-fold. Now compare that to actually meeting them for a movie or for dinner or for a walk in the park. I mean, that's a quantum leap even above talking to them on the phone. And the same thing is true for building relationships in our business. If the way you built it and the way you lead it is over the internet, through whatever medium that is, you're gonna be 1/20th as effective as if you talk to people all the time. And if you can get in front of people face to face, you're going to be 10 times more effective than if you talk to them. So going to events allows the souls to connect. It creates family. It creates a bond. It creates trust. It creates relationship. It creates fun. It creates memories. No, nobody creates memories over Facebook. Memories are created at events, and whether it's a cruise that you go on or a local meeting or whatever it is, memories are created. And I say this: the riches in life, Clive, are not the material things that we collect. When you and I are laying on our bed and we know we've got about a minute left to live, we're not going to lay there thinking about the cars we had or the homes we had or the jewelry we had. We're only going to reflect on the quality memories we created in life. And so here's how you can live almost eternally. Just cram 10 times more extraordinary memories in the same amount of time as other people do. And you'll reflect on your life as though you lived to be 1,000 years old. That many memories. It only happens at events.
That's fantastic. Words of wisdom there, Richard. But guys, the audience that are watching this here, I'm now going to call for questions whilst we just talk about our next subject. And then we'll just take a few questions and we'll see where that leads us to. Richard, we talked strongly about events. I think a lot of people struggle with promoting an event. They mention it. Now, Diana, my good lady wife, is probably one of the best promoters in the world. I mean, Eric Worre said in Las Vegas to all those people in the auditorium, 8,000 there live, and God knows how many watching on the internet, said he was the best promoter that he ever met in his life. And I'm pretty good as well. And promoting events is certainly one way that we have developed our income within this business. What sort of key points would you talk about in promoting an event? And let's take one as an example, because we've got a great event coming up in Manchester in November of this year. Eric Worre's GoPro Recruiting Mastery, which is a phenomenal, awesome gig. And I believe he's got he's got a few speakers coming, but I believe there's one guy in particular that's pretty good guy who's going. Would you know who that might be, Richard?
I heard that he somehow miraculously secured a heavy hitter. This guy's never spoken in the network marketing community before, but he's this one time agreed to speak at Eric Worre's Recruiting Mastery event. His name is Richard Bliss Brooke. That right there is the reason why everybody should come. Well, yes, Kimmy and I are coming, and we're very excited about it. But here's the tip I would give people about events. what I see people do that I think tends to be a mistake is they promote what people are going to learn at the event. And I think that's important to talk about what people are going to learn. But I have found that the number one motivator for people to go to an event is either fun or who they're going to meet or hear live. So if I was recruiting people, promoting for people to come to Eric Worre's event, I wouldn't teach so much on what they're going to learn about recruiting, because I think most people know they can learn that stuff just by getting some videos and studying them. I would promote, look, this is a rare opportunity to meet these following people. You're going to meet these people. You're going to be able to sit in the audience and hear their heart and their soul. You're going to get every fiber of their being and their instruction. You're going to be able to get pictures with them, and you're going to meet 3,000 or 4,000 people from all over the UK, from lots of different companies. This is an event you can't get on the internet. You can't get this by watching a videotape or going to a website. This only happens if you're there, and you're going to be in the presence of the greats of this industry. And that's how you learn to believe. How people learn to believe the way you and I believe, Clive, is by hanging out with us, is by listening to us. That's how people learn to believe. And what would it be worth to you if you were an up-and-coming distributor? If I was coaching one of your distributors, Clive, I might say, what would it be worth to you to believe in this opportunity the way Clive and Diana do? What would it be worth to you to believe in this opportunity the way Eric Worre does, the way Les Brown does? What would that be worth to you? And people have to be able to come to the conclusion, well, gosh, that would be worth millions. Right. So let's get going. And let's not be talking about the $400 or whatever it is that it costs to go there. People have to understand what the value is, and the value is being in the physical, spiritual presence of people that can shift your belief.
Richard, that's absolutely awesome. And you're absolutely right. But there's something that you've actually missed out of your talk today. And I know that you've written a couple of great books, and you've been very modest, and you've not mentioned them. Well, not mentioned them really well. Okay. I really need you to tell these guys a bit about the books that you've written, because they are, in my opinion, required reading for the professional network marketeer. Go on, do your stuff. Tell me about these books.
Do I hear Diana back there? Does she every once in a while chime in and tell you what you should be doing and how you should be doing it? Of course.
Does Kimmy do with you?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me grab a couple here.
See, he's got them buried in his closet here.
Okay. This is the first book that I wrote, actually the second book that I wrote, but the only one that's still in print. I wrote this in the mid-90s. This is a book about personal vision and self-motivation. You know, when people watch The Secret, one of the things The Secret forgot to tell people is how to resolve The Secret, how to implement The Secret. They did a great job of telling people what The Secret was, but not how to overcome The Secret or get through it. So this is like a manual for how to get yourself and keep yourself on fire about everything you're doing all the time without having to subscribe to a contest, without having to listen to a tape or go to a motivational speaker. Actually create it yourself. It's a book, and it's also available on audio. This book I wrote about 5 years ago. It's called The 4-Year Career.
Great book.
It's a deep dive into the mathematics of how network marketing works and the credibility of network marketing. All the people that are endorsed it are in the book. Both of those are available on Amazon, or they're available from my website.
Okay, I think they're also available from Knowledge is King here in the UK as well. But if not, you can get them from the other places as well. Richard, you know, in terms of the key skill sets, you know, we talked about teaching people how to present the opportunity. We talked about promoting the events, okay? I think one of the things that we've not really talked about is the invitation. You know, how to get somebody's interest without ramming it down their throat. How would you get them to say, tell me more? What's your take on that?
Well, I have two basic philosophies around the invite. One is wrapped around the direct approach, and one might be called the indirect approach. So I'll speak first to the direct approach. So Clive, if I know you, if we have some connection in our past, what I teach people to do is don't be cute, don't be fancy, don't beat around the bush, don't try to be a salesperson, don't try to be slick and creative, don't try to do any of that. Just rely on this fundamental truth. So take, for example, your products. This is a rhetorical question I'm asking you, Clive.
Okay.
If every prospect that any of us would ever run into in the UK knew what you know about your services, would they at least be willing to take a look at them?
Of course.
And there's just absolutely no question about that, right?
Yeah.
None.
None.
So next question about everybody that we would ever prospect in the UK, if they understood what we understand about what we're doing, if they understood it, would they be at least interested in seeing how they could make an extra $1,000 to $2,000 a month?
They should be.
Yes. Well, another way to ask it is, if you could just peek into the mind and heart of every prospect out there and just sort of eavesdrop on their mind and their heart, how big of a difference could an extra $1,000 a month make to their life?
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, how much time do they spend worrying about money or looking at a car, looking at clothes, or looking at a trip and wishing they could afford to do it? So what I teach people is, look, we have an edge here. What's the edge? Everybody wants what we have. So trust that. So here's how I teach people to do the direct approach. And the direct approach is for people that you don't have very much time to talk to. And that would be somebody you know, or somebody that you met, but it's going to be in passing. And so here's what I teach people to do. I teach people to tell the truth. It's a novel concept. It's uncomfortable for people. But the cool thing about in the invite, if you just tell the truth, is you don't have to remember what you said. You know that thing, that cliche about lying is, if you tell a lie, the trouble is you have to remember what the lie was. Nobody ever forgets the truth. So if I was teaching somebody to invite directly for the utility warehouse, I would tell people, I'd call you up. Okay, here's how I'm going to do this. Hey, Clive, this is Richard. You know, I know you from, this is how I know you. And the reason I'm calling you, Clive, is I'm involved in this incredible income opportunity. It's called the utility warehouse. This is what we sell. There's an opportunity for you to make an extra $1,000 to $2,000, maybe $10,000 a month. Would you give me 15 minutes to show it to you?
Of course.
Well, people might say yes, no. They might say, well, tell me more about it. And I know there's all of this training about, well, it's not something I can talk to you about. You know, it's so valuable that I can't, you know, disgrace it with 2 minutes of my time. It's going to take, I know all of that stuff, and all of that stuff works, Clive. The trouble is, it's difficult for people to learn how to posture that way and how to be that manipulative, if you will. It's not hard for people to learn how to tell the truth. And so I like to start people off, just tell the truth. And then the other side of the invite is people you don't know, but they're people you want to get to know. And so I have a huge body of training around that I call the anti-training, because it's all based on natural inclinations of the human being. I teach a concept called the curiosity approach, and I'll just boil it down into 30 seconds for you. It's It's just the opposite of what most people are taught to do. If I don't know you, what I'm taught to do in network marketing is ask you a few manipulative kind of setup questions, like get you all teed up and then knock the ball out of the park with some brilliant closing question. And, you know, tell you how great my products are and how much money you can make. And I teach just the opposite approach, which is, if I'm inviting you and you're the prospect, all I'm going to do is ask you questions about you. Now, you may say, well, what questions are you going to ask, Clive? And here's my brilliant training. I don't know. I don't know what questions I'm going to ask Clive, but I'm going to create a context from which the questions are going to come naturally. So I'll put it on you, Clive. Let's say you don't know what questions you're going to ask me, but let's say you're curious. This is the context. If you're curious about me and you have time to talk to me, what are you going to ask me?
I'm going to probably first of all ask you if you're local and what you do.
Okay. Now, can you, just to short circuit this, can you get a sense of that if I say, let's say we're in Sarasota, but I say I live in London.
Yeah.
Can you get clear that your next question is going to be a different question than if I say I live in Sarasota?
Now you're losing me.
If you ask me where I live,
yeah,
and I say I live in London,
yeah, I'm probably going to ask you the same question. What do you do? That's the way.
So if I say I live in London, don't you live in London?
Yes, and you say, well, I live near London. Yeah, so okay, now I get you. So if you said to right, so then I'd say, well, what are you doing here in Sarasota?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my point.
Yeah.
If you're curious, all you need to do is ask the first question.
Yeah.
First question can be, what do you do for a living? Where do you live? Are you coming or going? You know, what's going on? I mean, you can ask anything about somebody, and then every question you ask after that is based on what they just told you. So if I ask you where you live and you say, well, I live in Carmel, California, and you and I are in London,
yeah,
I'm going to ask you about Carmel, California, because that's where I live.
Okay.
So it's just a natural curiosity flow conversation. And here's the magic to it. If everything I talk to you about, Clive, are questions about you, if I'm just curious about you, and I don't tell you anything about my products or my opportunity, and this goes on for maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, who knows how long it goes on. What I guarantee everybody who tries this is that sooner or later, the prospect will tell you in no uncertain, crystal clear terms what's going on in their life where they either really want your product or they really want your opportunity. And then all you have to do is tell them about it naturally. It's a very natural approach. It takes longer to teach it than on this webinar, but to summarize it, here's my philosophy about the invite. If you don't have very long to talk and you know the person well, just tell them the truth and trust it. If you don't know the person, instead of trying to recruit them, try to get to know them and trust that the process of getting to know them will open up incredible opportunities for you to naturally offer to show them your opportunity. It will.
Richard, that's just been utterly, utterly brilliant. I think, you know, we've had a cracking 40 minutes virtually. So,
cracking, I love that.
So our time is up. So I think, you know, we all deserve to give Richard a massive round of applause.
How'd you do that?
I'll let you know. You'll over dinner. And we're really looking forward to seeing you in the UK in November. That'll be a fantastic delight. And Richard, thank you so much for taking part in our broadcast this evening. So, guys and gals, back with me just for a minute, just to let you know that in a month's time or thereabouts, I'll be posting the dates and times in the next week. Our next live interview is going to take place with a gentleman some of you have already seen speak in England, a chap called Dr. Tom Barrett. He's our guest speaker at our conference on our Express Day. So that's something to look forward to. But Richard, wasn't he just absolutely brilliant? Okay. So from me, it's until next time, cheerio from me, and also it's goodbye from Richard. Say goodbye.
Yep. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you all.
And thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I'm sure you got tremendous value out of it. Until next time, bye-bye for now.